Hello.
What's
Welcome,
up?
welcome to Retro Toy Princess. I'm Allison Troy, and today my guest is Rowdy Riles. How goes it, Rowdy?
Oh, it goes. I just got a text from my girlfriend saying that she got stung by a bee as soon as she got to work, so we'll see
Oh,
how that goes.
that's I would be 37 pounds of swollen already. I'm
Yeah, I hope
allergic
she's
to
not
bees.
allergic. I don't know if she's allergic.
Is she about to find out? Anyway,
Yeah.
as we say back in the South, you about to find out, girl.
Oh God.
Um, Hello, Derek Hoover. Oh, headed to the King County Chicago toy store, toy show, wishing us both a terrific day and a wickedly good stream. He's
Thank you.
trying to make me do a bad Boston accent. No thanks, Derek Hoover. Exactly, Andrew. Hello, Andrew. And CJ. CJ always in the house. I invoked my southernness and it's going to be 90 south in here. Sorry, guys. Good morning, Chris Plastic. Lovely to see you. And Rhea Black, all the way from Canada. Thank you, Rhea. And we're back to CJ.
CJ's the best.
CJ. And now I'm not going to do my Buffalo Stance Nina Cherry karaoke because I'm not drunk. Anyway, how are you today, Rowdy
I'm
Riles?
I'm good. I'm good. She just said she's not allergic, so that's good. Let me heart that
That's
real quick.
excellent. So
Yeah.
we won't have emergency bee
No,
stinginess
that is
today.
good news. Very good news.
The last time I got stung by a bee, I was chasing my pig, and the pig was hiding under a trailer, and I had to go drag my pig out from under the trailer, and the bee got me.
So
Anyway, I'm
you
Southern.
had a
Did I mention
pig?
I'm Southern? Yeah, I had a pet potbelly pig, Miss Daisy.
Aw,
Yeah, she was a
pig's
sweetie. Her
cute.
favorite thing was ice cream sandwiches and
Ooh.
beating up the wiener dog that lived across the street. So she definitely was my pet because those are things I also loved. Was beating up the wiener across the street and ice
Oh
cream
my
sandwich.
goodness.
It was anyway. And Nolan is here. We have officially been coordinated. Toy
What's up,
to
Nolan?
official because Nolan is here. Yeah. No. Once it happens, it just happens. I made a mistake of before we jumped on backstage. I was watching a video about the South, and of course, it was full of the accent. So
Y'all.
it's I say y'all even when my accent's not in play because it's a viable contraction for you all.
Yeah, and I'm from Virginia Beach, so that's like the bottom of Virginia.
Yeah,
So when I get angry or when I very rarely get drunk, the Southern comes out. Anyone who
ex-
watches my channel knows when I start
yeah,
ranting, I start saying, "Y'all don't even know what's going on around here."
y'all.
It just, it just comes
Y'all
out.
don't make me come down there. I will take my shoe off.
Exactly. I tried to draw some spider sense things on here,
Uh
but I
huh.
think I did a bad job. But it's okay.
All right. Oh, by the way, peeps, we're doing Spider Man. That's what Riley picked. Sorry, just
Well, I wonder
launching into
why
it.
I picked Spider-Man.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you do like so. Okay, wait. I forget. Let's try to be official. Let's do this right. Since this is your first time here, and I'm just launching in like you're like Andrew or Chris Plastic, where we're like, screw the pleasantries. Let's just start talking smack. Uh, so Spider-Man. Why'd you pick Spider-Man, Rowdy Riles?
Because Spider-Man is my favorite character. Um, bar Indiana Jones, like that's my favorite movie character. So
Okay,
comic book character, and I do love the Spider-Man movies, but none of the Spider-Man movies can hold a candle to Raiders of the Lost Ark. So,
this is true.
so comic books, Spider-Man, movies, Indiana Jones. But this is a coloring stream. I feel like we could do Indiana Jones, but those are very labor intensive. I'm sure there's a lot of little
We
details.
could. I've got. I haven't scanned them, but I have vintage Raiders books with really nice line art. So I'll get
That's
some of those
really
scanned
cool.
for next time when you come back. I've been
Yeah.
needing to scan them anyway and do some Indiana Jones stuff because I'm so old. We went and saw Raiders of the Lost Ark opening weekend at the theater.
Well, I'm jealous of that because I've never
And
seen Raiders in theaters.
it was really fun. Although we were in the South, a certain part of the, deep Louisiana bayou.
Yeah.
And I was, 1981, so I was like 7? Yeah, I was like 7. So whenever the German officer people's faces like melted, I screamed, "Do it again!" So anyway, because
I
my
mean,
only
you love to see it.
yeah, well, and my only context was old episodes of Wonder Woman where she's punching those people. So I'm like, obviously they're the bad guy. I think we've lost the plot, guys. Anyway, I mean other people, not you and I, but I remember when punching them was fun, and we cheered when their faces melted off. I now feel like somebody would show up and be like, "Have we considered that they are people too before we melt their faces off?" No.
No, we don't consider that.
The Ark is the wrath of God, people. Like, the Ark knows. Anyway, if there are any of those types in the audience who are now offended because I say your face should melt off, I'm sorry, you're a piece of garbage. Anyway, I'm sorry you have to live with yourself, and the rest of us have to live with you too.
That's just how it be,
Right. Not even your mom thinks you're a catch.
Nope. She was lying. She was lying. She just has to say it.
Your mom is just like, if I could go back in time with a coat hanger. Anyway, this is getting dark. Let's not get dark. Anyway, so Raiders and Spider-Man.
Yep, Spider-Man. So, on the topic of Spider-Man, I know if anyone plays Magic the Gathering, you're probably going to hate me for saying this, but there's a Spider-Man set coming out, and I am so excited for it.
Why would anyone hate you for wanting Magic the Gathering stuff?
Well, because, Magic the Gathering is about fantasy and magic and all that stuff, and lately they've been bringing in other things like SpongeBob and Fast and the Furious, and Spider-Man is one of those things, and people are kind of upset about it. But then there's people like me, they're like, well, I like both, so this is who this is made for, and I'm super excited about it.
Well, like, if you're a Magic the Gathering person and you're all pure about it, do you have to do the Spider-Man stuff, or is it optional?
No, you don't have to, but it's all going to be tournament legal and stuff. So if someone pulls it out, the only thing you can do is be like, well, I'm going to quit and not play against you.
There have been a lot of times people have pulled stuff out, and I'm like, I'm going to quit now. I'll see you later. It's easy, guys. It's really easy. It's easy. You're just like, okay,
all right.
This is not my flavor. I want a butter pecan, and that's Rocky Road.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, nerds make things really hard sometimes.
That's what she said.
Exactly. No, they actually, in that case, no, they don't. Anyhow. Well, that's cool, though. Like, I would guess there are people who have never played Magic the Gathering, myself included, who would be excited. Like, if they did like Strawberry Shortcake Magic the Gathering, or She-Ra, or Smurfs.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
Strawberry Shortcake would be fun in Magic the Gathering.
As long as they put bitch pudding in it, I'm good.
Yep. I've got an extra lemon meringue. Once I get the custom corner going again, I'm going to try to customize a bitch pudding for Andrew.
Oh, yeah. There's a new Robot Chicken special coming out, and it's pretty much all about bitch pudding, and I'm here for it.
Nice. I remember when they did stuff regularly.
Yeah, I miss those days.
Yeah.
At least South Park is back.
So, yeah, South Park is firing on all cylinders, and you gotta love it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Spider-Man. So, big Spider fan.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tobey Maguire, that other one, or the other one? Which one is your
Tom
best?
Holland.
Okay.
Because, so I'll explain it, because a lot of people are like, well, Tobey's the best. Well, Tobey was the best Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
He was the best at being a dopey nerd, but at the same time, Peter Parker is also an Peter Parker is also an optimist.
Yeah.
So everything isn't going to get him down in the dumps. That Peter was so sad all the time. Like, you know, his uncle died and that sucks. But he just talked about it all the time. And then you get to Andrew Garfield, who was great at being Spider-Man. He had this, you know, the snark, the jokes, and a lot of it was actually kind of mean. So he kind of went a little bit too far as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then you get to Tom Holland, and he's like the perfect balance between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. It's not uncool to be a nerd anymore. So he's a nerd, but he's not like hated by everybody. He's got his bullies, and he makes jokes. He tries to keep it lighthearted, and he's just kind of a kid in awe of everything happening around him. And I love that about Tom Holland Spider-Man.
I will say the only thing that I disagree with casting-wise of the new Spider-Man is Marissa Tomei. Because while mechanically I know she's technically old enough to be Aunt May, like, I don't think we needed Aunt May thirst trap. I'm just saying.
But she's hot, though.
She is hot, but I just, you know, like, I don't think Aunt May should be a MILF.
No, but they've been like
No, it's a
aging
guilt.
her down.
It's a guilt for grandma.
They've been aging her down in the comics for a while. Because does it make sense that his aunt is 80 years old? I don't know. I mean, maybe as an adult, but you know.
Well, I mean, if you've seen the old comic books in the 60s.
Yeah, they drew her like a prune.
And then they did that horrible famous covers, Migos style, Aunt May in the 90s. Ooh, that's a hit.
Yeah. That thing was
I gave that to my ex, and he screamed. Well,
get it away from me.
I mean, for many reasons, but in that point, he screamed because of the Aunt May being scary. So.
CJ makes a good point. The way Garfield crawled around in the webs like a spider was pretty awesome too. And yeah, I did like that. Like his lizard fight scene where he's shooting all the webs and crawling across them. It looked really good.
Oh, Leia Glacia is finally here. Thank you. Welcome.
Yes.
Lovely
Both of my mods are here. CJ and Leia. They're my mods on my channel. So good seeing y'all.
Love to see a good Leia picture always.
It's perfect.
Leia was my first love. She's the whole reason I'm here today doing this on the internet, collecting toys. It all goes back to Space Mom.
Rest in peace, Carrie Fisher.
No, gone too
soon. She was a very unique individual, and she did more than just Star Wars. Like, people don't know that she did a lot of behind the scenes, like script doctoring.
Oh yeah, Sister Act. The Lethal Weapon, the first one with Rene Russo, she rewrote all of that dialogue between them. So every time Rene Russo convinces you that Mel Gibson is attractive, it's with the help of the words of Carrie Fisher.
Well, see, that's because she wrote a woman, and most of the time a man is writing a woman in movies and stuff. And I'm just like, oh, she loves him so much unconditionally. And it's like, no, sometimes it's just about the sex.
Sometimes, right?
Sometimes.
Yeah, no, Carrie Fisher is amazing.
She was a godsend.
You know, we all sort of fell out of Star Wars in like 85-ish. And it came, you know, somehow Palpatine has returned. And that happened when they started releasing all the expanded universe books.
Yeah.
But for me, my uncle, my beloved late uncle, sent me for, not even like he was broke. He lived in New York. He and his lover, because that's what you called it back then, lived in Manhattan and then they would bartend in Fire Island in the Hamptons. And then they were male models. They would also do go-go dance. I'm sure at some point somebody will upload some 80s homegrown pornography to the internet. And I'll be like, oh, Uncle Mike and Uncle Andrew. You're not brothers. Anyway, but he sent me a box one year of books. He's like, these are things you should read. And it was like Interview with the Vampire, Communion by Whitley Strieber, because my uncle was convinced aliens were real. And my grandfather did work at Area 51 for a while and worked on the space program. So I'm not going to say they're not real.
That's
I'm
crazy.
going to say that popular you know, like he and his partner were like, oh, when we were building the moon buggy, I bet aluminum, this lightweight material people think is garbage, would be great for conducting signals in space. I don't know where they would get that idea. Anyway, he's and Carrie Postcards from the Edge was in there before, like, you know, like the movie had come out, and I was not a normal person. I was not a normal teen.
For any of us.
Right. It was, you know, it was like, you know, the beginning of Clueless. Like right now, you're probably going like, is this a Noxzema commercial or what? But for me, it was like, so like right now, you're probably going, is this a Napalm commercial or what? And that was my teen years. But he sent that, and it was funny because Carrie Fisher, it was like Princess Leia had been childhood, but then as a teenager, where I have an internal, ongoing, constant monologue that most people would not talk to me anymore if you could hear my inner monologue, because it's not nice.
I mean, sometimes you let it out and it's really funny, so you'd be surprised.
It's unfailingly honest, which is why I don't, because sometimes, you know, when that's directed at yourself, it's like that that scene in Silence of the Lambs where Clarice is like, hey, do you ever turn that laser against yourself, Dr. Lecter? And he does not. And in that moment, I can a little bit relate to Dr. Lecter, because it would not be pretty. It's not pretty whenever you direct it toward yourself. Anyway, long story
No,
short.
it's not. You tear yourself apart.
Alec, she did not direct it. It was a thinly veiled autobiography, and then she wrote the screenplay that she had to turn into a movie. So yeah.
It kind of looks like they gave Spider-Man Super Saiyan hair, but it's okay.
Perfect analogy, Alex. They made Aunt May look like a mummy in the 1960s comics.
They really did, and then they made that Migos-style figure, like you said, and it was just
it was so bad.
horrifying.
It was a very literal translation of how she looked, though, which is, I think, when they were like, "Ooh, we need to."
Yeah, she did not look well for 30 years or so, and then she finally.
Oh, sorry.
She finally bit the bullet in what was it? One More Day, and then they undid it again, and it's like, oh well, there she is.
Yeah. Well, I think originally she looks like a side character in Archie comics. Everyone else looks weird. I don't know what Steve Ditko was thinking and I don't know why everybody continued to draw her like with like a hot dog nose and like a hamburger head for all those years with the weird bun in the back, like she's going to Burning Man or something.
Ditko was always just doing his own thing, and that's why his style is so distinctive.
It's true. R.I.P. Ditko.
Yes. The main creator of Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you know, there's Stan Lee's whole style of writing those old books, like the Marvel way, where it's like, here's a plot, go draw it, and then going in and creating the story from it. I mean, again, like, we definitely should never diminish Stan Lee's contribution, but the fact that Stan Lee is portrayed often as being like 99.9% responsible for Marvel, when in reality it's like 50%.
Maybe 45, because he can't draw very well.
Yeah, he can't. No. But at the same time, like, I don't get the Stan Lee hate.
No, I don't either.
He directly screwed you over, and then that's a totally different story, and you're allowed to hate him forever if he actually took money from you and your family. That's different.
You know what I hate is that there's this guy running around crowdfunding this documentary, filming Stan Lee's abuse, and instead of like going out and saying something about it while it was happening, he's like, hey, help me make a movie about this so I can make a bunch of money off of this poor old man's legacy. And it's like, no, dude, you can
I read about that. I think Kurt Busiek posted about it on Blue Sky, and the guy was sort of like one of his caretakers or something, so he was part of the one exploiting him.
Yeah.
So it's not even like he you know, it's not like he was somehow like a casual observer who noticed it or whatever. He actually like benefited in the moment. So
Yep. Yep. Horrible
again,
person.
the cash cow is gone. He's got to kind of keep at it.
He's got to make that bag.
Yeah.
And some people choose the garbage way to do it.
I'm gonna go crowdfund a documentary about all of my exes and everything they did wrong to me that I could have stopped by leaving but didn't.
Hey, I would watch that. I would fund it. I'd buy that for $1.
I need 3 more of them to die so that I don't get sued and have to profit share or some such.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. At least one of them would try. But when he didn't
Yeah, you don't
succeed in throwing me off, as I told him when he failed at throwing me over that balcony, it's like you should have wished that you succeeded in that one. He did leave the state not long afterwards.
That's probably for the best.
And he will never not walk without a limp. So,
Oof.
paring
Yeah,
knife,
you give him the business.
paring knife to the thigh, it does wonders. Anyway, enough about
Sometimes people need a physical reminder of what they did.
his name is Carl and Allison. That's exactly what I would call it. Like, yeah, my favorite Carrie Fisher random cameo is either Austin Powers,
Scream 2.
Scream 3, yeah,
Oh, 3, yeah, Scream
Bianca
3.
Burnett. Well, and what's great is like that was one of the last cameos she did at Miramax because not long after that she found out about what Harvey Weinstein was doing.
And she left.
And not only did she leave, but she sent him a cow tongue because somebody she knew, like because one thing a lot of people don't realize is like Carrie Fisher and Penny Marshall every year would have this big party at Carrie Fisher's house, like a joint birthday party, right? And they would invite anyone who was everyone, but at the same time, they would also. Carrie Fisher was pretty well known for taking younger actresses and younger women in Hollywood who were just sort of, if she found you interesting, she would take you under her wing and sort of like befriend you and invite you to things so you can meet people. And if you're meeting people at a Carrie Fisher party, 9 times out of 10, it's way different than if you're going to like a Diddy party, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And he was harassing. It was like a production assistant or some such that Carrie Fisher found out about it and sent him a cow tongue and told him that if it continued, that it wouldn't be a cow tongue.
Yep, I've heard that story. She's a baller.
It later came out during one of his trials that he has a particular type of necrosis of the taint. So I'm not going to say karma's a thing, but karma's a thing, y'all.
Poor guy.
Poor him. Like, yeah, him and his rotten taint. Anyway, Spider-Man. This is why people have to come on here multiple times. There are people who've been on here, nobody even knows that they have a channel. They just are here to... Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Checking chat, because that's a thing we do. Okay, here we go. The way Garfield crawled around on the webs like a spider was pretty awesome. There you go. I just remember, yeah. All right. Okay, so Spider-Man. So I'm assuming you're pretty young, right? You're like
I wouldn't call myself young. I'm 34, but relatively comparatively to the other people in the space, not you, but other people in the space, yes, I'm younger.
Oh God, no, wait. Let me break this. You're probably old enough to be the child of my friend who got pregnant in high school.
Yeah, I was born in December 1990, so I'm going to be 35.
Oh, I'm sorry. My friend Dawn's child is, well, we're not really friends anymore. She a bitch. But my friend in high school, Dawn's baby, was born in 1989. So
that's the year my brother was born.
Sadly, my prayers for her did not happen, and she did not go into labor in American history and save me from that test I didn't study for. So I prayed so hard. Sometimes they just don't answer your prayers.
Nope,
Anyway,
sometimes they don't, and sometimes it's generally all the time. But sometimes you get lucky.
And CJ, when it comes to Harvey Weinstein, definitely imagine the necrosis. It will bring a smile to your face.
I just picture him as a necromorph from Dead Space.
Ooh.
Being like, let me touch you. Ooh. No, thank you.
He had that whole thing where it's like, prison is killing me, and I just feel giddy every time I run across that article again. I'm just like, yes, as it should. Anyway.
I hope it's very uncomfortable, you old person of horrible taste of things to do to people.
Being in prison with taint necrosis, that's not easy life for you, sir.
Well, it keeps him from being the prison bee, you know, so.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's lucky in that way.
Yeah, nobody. Ugh. Yeah, I'm not gonna say that on the stream, but I'll say it later in private. But I was just like, I was that meme of the girl who tastes the thing and makes the face and then makes out. Anyway, I'm not for myself, but just how that might go over in prison if it's like, say, mushy down. Anyway, let's stop. We're gonna stop. So, 34 Spider-Man. So I'm gonna assume your first Spider-Man was the '90s cartoon, right?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. That was, all that whole block of TV: Street Sharks, Biker Mice, Spider-Man, Batman the Animated Series, X-Men the Animated Series. That's why I'm such a nerd today, is because of all of that, and Power Rangers, obviously. That was the big thing. But that's the reason why I'm such a nerd today. So, 90s TV was very good.
It was really sort of when nerd culture started. Like, before it was kind of a thing where you hit a certain age and it was all over. And then sort of Star Wars came back and then Marvel, and I think, in my humble opinion, the entire reason we're all adult toy collectors is because of Toy Biz Marvel.
Absolutely.
And Power of the Force 2, because those two things brought Gen X and older comic book collectors to the toy aisle to start creating the culture that we have now.
Yeah, there's, Carbon Scoring has videos of all his old Toy Biz stuff, and I'm so jealous that he still has it, because I don't have any of it anymore.
I opened a box the other day, and it had my Toy Biz Phoenix in it, my Jessica Drew Spider-Woman, and gosh, what was the other Toy Biz? It'll all be on display soon. I'm almost to the point where my studio is ready.
You should do a video when it's ready, like do a collection tour.
I'm going to. Like, I have boxes and I'll send you pictures on a DM, because nobody needs to see the pile, the clutter, and the hoarders of it all.
The life of a collector.
Well, I mean, I've got stuff. I mean, like, I've got my original I've got some of my original 1978 Star Wars stuff. Like, I've been collecting since, Star Wars. Like, I've got stuff that old. I've got my Superpowers Wonder Woman somewhere back there, and like the original one, not the Toad one, like the 1984 one. Forever defined. My 1992 Kenner Catwoman from the movie.
I had that figure. I remember from Batman Returns. I had that Catwoman. I had the Penguin. I had a couple of the Penguins with the missile packs on them.
Yeah.
That being said, that movie, Batman's just straight up killing people the whole time. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. That's my favorite Batman movie, actually.
I mean, it's a good movie, but then you go back and watch it as an adult, and you're like, doesn't Batman have this rule about not blowing people up with grenade launchers from his Batmobile?
Like, I don't remember seeing the bodies, so it's possible they're still alive.
Oh yeah, they're fine. They're fine.
They're just a little crispy.
There's a Batman comic book. I don't remember what run it was from. Maybe it was Batman Inc. or something, but there was like a support group for like just regular criminals that Batman had absolutely brutalized. And one had like a batarang in his head. One was paralyzed from the neck down. They just all messed up. And it's like, yeah, I wish he would have killed me.
and brick something in the house. Yeah, see, so for me, Spider-Man was Electric Company, the terrible 70s live action one, and then Jessica Drew Spider-Woman cartoons. So,
They had a whole cartoon show for Jessica Drew.
yeah, it was completely unrelated to the comic book. She's a newspaper reporter, and I want to say she spins to turn into Spider-Woman. It's been a couple of years since I rewatched it. It's not great. It's very much like somebody took Carol Danvers of the 70s when she worked at the women's magazine and made her Spider-Woman and called it Jessica Drew.
Wow, that's
Because it
interesting.
reminded me way more of Ms. Marvel than it did. When I rewatched it as an adult after having read, all the vintage Carol Danvers stuff and all the vintage, like I've got all the essential black and white collections that I picked up like in the mid 2000s. So I could reread all of that.
So you're a big Carol Danvers fan?
I am, as much as I'm not a huge Marvel. I'm sort of way more DC. Wonder Woman, Supergirl, like that was my jam as a kid. And it was because a lot of the media, like Marvel didn't really prioritize women when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I remember getting Sensational She-Hulk 1. My dad brought that home from 7-Eleven because he worked there through college. He brought me some Spider-Woman, but it was mostly Star Wars, Supergirl. It was Superman Family starring Supergirl at the time. But like when my grandmother took me to see Superman, the movie in 1978, I was like, well, where's his cousin? Where's Supergirl? Why is this whole movie his cousin?
Oh, and then they made Supergirl, and you're like, why did they make this movie?
Oh no, I was fine with it. I was 10. I was like, this is great. And she goes to Popeye's Chicken. And also, like, again, my fabulous uncle was like Faye Dunaway. He was visiting for the summer, and it came out like in November. So like he was like, we have to go see it when it comes out. And then when he was home for Christmas, we went and saw it. And he was like, Faye Dunaway is magical. He had seen it like 3 times. He was like, Faye Dunaway is great in this. Remember Mommy Dearest? Because that was one of the first things he rented on VHS when he would come home. So
That's funny.
yeah, my uncle, like, he gave me his copy of Rocky Horror Picture Show LP because they had lost their it's not a timeshare, like a sublet in Manhattan, so like he had to get rid of all of the stuff. So he's like, here, you're 10, you'll enjoy Rocky Horror Picture Show. And
yeah, you can watch this as a child and understand it completely.
Oh no, not even the movie, because it wasn't even on VHS. You could only see it if you lived in a city that did the midnight showings, or it was Halloween and he came to your town. Otherwise, it was a record. So I didn't even realize it was a movie until a little bit older. So anyway, again, I was a weird kid. There were things that I was dancing around singing in the bedroom that later, much later, things I'm like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, it all makes sense now. Anyway, so yeah. But so Marvel, I was always DC. Marvel, and then Secret Wars, the toy line was very underwhelming. There were no women, so I'm like, I'm not buying toys. Fuck that toy line. Well, not that I would have said fuck in 1984. It would have been like, oh fudge, there's no women. What kind of shit is that?
Now we've got Todd saying, oh, if I made female figures, then it would just be the end of the world for something. Yeah, sure, Todd. Now you reveal Zatanna. Now that you're about to lose the license at the end of the year.
Right.
Now you reveal Zatanna.
Now that he's trying to get every bit of cash, now he's suddenly like, let me make even more women figures. Still no women's superpowers, Todd.
What Todd is doing infuriates me. I understand how his line worked at the beginning and how he's trying to make his buck now that he's losing it, but the pricing increases for no reason is just insane to me. I dropped my pencil.
No, I just call it NFT thing. It's like, if you want to be a tech bro, go be a tech bro and let somebody who wants to make toys run your toy company.
Yeah. And every once in a while, I'm not going to say he doesn't make good figures, but the thing about it for me is it's 2025. You have not changed a single thing about the engineering of those figures for, when did you start the line? 2019? So like for 5 or 6 years. You have not gone away from the giant ugly pins and the giant rubber diapers. You spent all your money on 3 or 4 body molds, and you're cranking them out until you lose the license, and that's what he
Right.
wants to do. So,
But I think the problem is he doesn't actually make the toys. He's not designing them anymore. He doesn't he's not involved. In the beginning when it was just Spawn and Party Angela, when he could make my honest feeling is some of Todd McFarlane's whole women thing is not actually that he thinks that, but just that he's still pissy that he lost the rights to Angela.
yeah, he was really upset about that.
What do you mean? She was a co-creation and Neil Gaiman created more of her, and now he sold her to Marvel. Anyway, I'm not gonna pretend like I didn't chuckle about that for a while.
No,
Anyway, but I honestly McFarlane hasn't designed those. He's got a staff that designs all of that. So whenever, and I think that's part of the annoyance for me is every so often people from that work at McFarlane in various capacities on the toys will do interviews, and it's really clear that they want to get, I think Ryan Joel on Gotham City Tonight had somebody who had worked on Superpowers and kind of did I'm aware of the characters people want, and it was really clear it's not decision wise it's not the people design, it is Todd making those decisions.
Oh
but
yeah, he tells them what he wants them to make, and he says you're going to make this, and you're not going to vary in any way, or I'm going to be mad. And he does not have a no man; he has all yes men. So that's how it goes.
That's exactly, Breck. He was a tech bro without tech in the mid-90s. I mean, and here's the thing. He at least is a better artist. It's not like Liefeld where every character looks like a ballerina in pirouette. So...
Yeah, apparently Liefeld had a whole panel at Comic-Con, and I'm like, was he just whining about Marvel shorting him on money the whole time, or was he actually talking about stuff?
And this is a good point, Break. X-Men during... Well, in general, Claremont just did a really good job of having women in his comics that were women. We got Storm under him. We got Phoenix is much more interesting than Marvel Girl ever was. Kitty Pryde is hit or miss, but the fact is we can say Kitty Pryde is hit or miss because she's been along long enough to be hit or miss.
She said a lot of questionable stuff.
Yeah, Kitty Pryde's, she's got a lot. If she were a real character, there would be a lot for her to unpack.
Yeah.
The Green Goblin, the smoke coming out of his little goblin flyer thing is gray, right? It's not a special color or anything.
I think it's a purple. I mean,
purple. Okay.
Or no, it's a green. It's a green.
Okay, well, we'll give
green smoke. That's how I always picture it, anyway.
Well,
you could just do a regular flame, but that's boring,
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, is it just gray or anyway? I'm gonna put some green down and make it fancy. I just want to do the smoke before I get to the boring dude in the suit and the hat right here. I think he's gonna.
I'm just coloring in the background right now because I was like, I can't just color Spider-Man and call it good. This needs to be completely covered.
So. Oh, I do shorts sometimes where it's just screw the background. But then again, I film anywhere from 15 to 25 shorts in a month.
Yeah, I need to make more shorts.
Even though they only take 30 seconds to a minute, it takes 2 to 3 hours generally to film. So I just sometimes say screw it and do a Spider-Man like that where it's just screw the background. You don't need no background and stuff.
That's what I did as a kid. Whenever I colored something, I just colored the picture and I was like, well, that's done now.
Sometimes I was probably a lot of that did that because I was very impatient as a kid. I just color. I also sometimes would be the kid who would get the coloring book and I would go through and color Barbie's hair on every page and not color anything else but her.
Just the hair.
or just her lips or whatever. It was a bunch of the coloring books that I threw out when I moved out to go to college, which I now kick myself. Was flipping through them, and there was one where it's like I just went through, and every Wonder Woman I had only colored the eagle and her red top, but nothing else for the entire book. And
That's
some of it
funny.
was like with permanent markers, so like it had seeped through the where it had seeped through to the next, and it's just like I was just so reckless as a kid. And I think about that sometimes when I'm, sitting at the table spending hours trying to add detail and gloss these old books up. Like back in the day, this would have been 5 minutes and I would have gotten bored and just colored Spider-Man.
That's that ADHD.
Yeah.
You know, it's also better now because you can just like either photocopy or just keep printing out copies of the same
Yeah.
picture. And then when we were a kid, that's all you got. One and
I
done.
well, it's technically, but I had a lot of the same books over and over. If I like, there's one Wonder Woman book that I haven't done anything for from the channel yet. It was one of the first books where I'm like, I'm going to do a channel and I'm going to do toys and coloring and it was because of my Strawberry Shortcake books, which I have been working on. But it's also this horrible old Wonder Woman story from the Golden Age that they redid as a coloring book in the 70s, set in the then continuity of Wonder Woman of like 1974. So it's accurate. Like they changed the supporting cast from the Golden Age to be like her supporting cast in the 70s. And it's the Mole Men. And in it, Wonder Woman as Diana Prince works for the UN Crisis Bureau, and there's a big earthquake at the UN, and the entire female marching band with women from around the world is swallowed by the giant crevice.
Oh my
And Wonder
goodness.
Woman and Amazon scientist Paula, who used to work for German people in World War II. She was evil, and then Wonder Woman, she got acid thrown in her face, and they made her pretty. And when she was pretty, she wasn't bad anymore. Gotta love the
Oh,
40s.
that makes sense, right?
Yeah, ugly people are evil. Anyway, no comment. We're gonna stop right there. But anyway, she and Paula have to go underground to save them, and they find an underground race of mole people who are blind, and they capture women and make them be their slaves to mine ore.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then by the end of it, Wonder Woman's like, oh, but the head slave girl is in love with the horrible mole man, and he's ugly, but I bet if we gave him plastic surgery to make him handsome and fix his eyesight, they would all be good. And it happens, and yep. So anyway, I'm going to color that book for the channel.
That is a crazy story.
It's pretty, the 40s were crazy. It's just funny that they lifted an entire story from the 40s and dropped it in the 70s.
Like, this works, right? No one's going to be upset by this.
No.
At least not now.
Well, what's funny, CJ, about Dr. Poison is that wasn't original Dr. Poison storyline that they did in the movie where she's got the scars from like she's ugly, therefore she's evil. The original Dr. Poison was a Japanese princess who was also a master poisonist, who was working for the Axis. But originally she was disguised as a creepy, gross old man.
Oh.
And then Wonder Woman unveils, at the end of the first adventure, she rips the mask off to reveal a pretty woman underneath.
And then she was good and not evil anymore.
Actually, no, because it was during World War II and Dr. Poison was Japanese, so she remained a villain through the entire Golden Age. She did not get brought back during the revival of the Golden Age in Wonder Woman in the 60s, but considering the attitude toward Asian people in the 50s and 60s in America, and the Robert Kanigher, who was writing Wonder Woman at the time, did give us egg foo, which was a giant Chinese communist egg. Google egg foo the first sometime, y'all, because it's pretty racist. Like, it's a very racist caricature. So it's best that Dr. Poison was left in comic book limbo during the Golden Age revival in the 60s, because it would have been bad. She did not come back until the late 90s, right before they published the Wonder Woman archives, which had the first reprints of her first appearance. And then when she was brought back, she was made the granddaughter of the original Dr. Poison from the Golden Age. And she was normal, but she started experimenting on herself to make herself look more horrible, to scare the people she was experimenting on. So it was more of like a Joker thing. And for somehow in the movie, it turned into she's accidentally disfigured herself through her experiments, which adds a different level of ableism than was in the 90s version, which is where you would expect the ableism, frankly, is in the 90s. And yeah, because in the 90s she had sort of a Joker face because she had experimented on herself to scare people, and then in the movie they made her physically repulsive because she accidentally poisoned herself, and now she
She
has
was
to
in a
wear.
live action movie?
Yep, she was in the good Wonder Woman movie with
The first one?
the first one. Yeah.
I don't remember that. I'll have to
World
rewatch
War
it.
One. Yep, and then Ares at the end is like, "You should kill her. She's hideous," and it's like, well, that's yeah.
Wow, I don't remember that at all. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's that first movie was jam packed with stuff. So
Yeah, and I love that movie. Like, Gal Gadot aside, that movie when it first came out was like, I was like, finally, we're getting Wonder Woman on screen, and it's great.
wait, give me the stone. Give me the
You-
stone.
Hello, no! Oh my god.
I'm sorry, this is not.
No, it's funny. I saw someone like doing all of her lines and just like doing them exactly like she did.
Yeah.
And it's just a comedy piece. It's like, oh, okay, she just is not a very good actor.
Right, and there's somebody in the comments of one of the compilations somebody made who was like, they're like, what's crazy is they rewrote the entire like the entire island of Themyscira, so they all have that terrible accent. And it's like, that's a really good point, because none of those actresses are from the same part of the world she's from.
Yeah.
Like, and typically the women of Themyscira should have Greek accents. Mm-hmm. They should actually be speaking Greek because they're Greek.
Yeah, they're from the
they
Greek
separated from the patriarch world during the time of Greek mythology, and they've been in hiding on Themyscira. So they should have, none of them should have spoken English, and definitely none of them should have had that particular accent. So
no.
Anyway, this is not a Gal Gadot hate train.
No, we're not going to do that. But I did love the first movie. I did love it, and then 84 came out. Movie. And it's like
I liked 84, but it's very flawed.
I liked Pedro Pascal in it.
The problem with Wonder Woman 1984, we're going to pretend the Steve Trevor thing was not a thing because I don't have time to unpack that. And that also is kind of drawn from Steve Trevor in the 1980s. So it's not comic book inaccurate to a degree. The problem I have with that movie, and I think I even talked recently on a stream with Andrew from Gady's Toys about this, is the cheetah. Like, we don't see her turn into a cheetah. And if they had thrown that in there, that movie would have made much more sense and been more fun. That movie should have just ended with Kristen Wiig, still Barbara Minerva, and then given us a third movie where she actually turns into the cheetah. But I think by the time they got to a point, they probably realized this is actually the last Wonder Woman movie we're going to be doing. So, because it was during lockdown when everything was shifting.
Yeah, it came up on Max same day as in theaters. I remember watching it on Max.
I don't know if it even came out in theaters because it was still that early in the pandemic where like things just weren't open yet.
Yeah,
I remember getting up Christmas morning and watching that. And I was way more in the moment. It was fine. It wasn't until the second rewatch that I was like, huh. Okay.
It just didn't have the same feeling as the first one.
It didn't. It feels like, and again, it feels like it for me. Like Batman Forever, is it Forever, the one with Val Kilmer?
Yes. Yeah.
That's my least favorite Batman movie, and the reason that's my least favorite Batman movie is there's too much in it. Like, it's boring, it's, like, bloated, like, Chase Meridian is pointless. Nobody needed Nicole Kidman in that movie.
Nope.
And I say that as somebody at the time who was a big fan of Nicole Kidman. Her role in To Die For, that character was my icon for a really long time. I was like, if I could grow up, I would want to be a psychotic wannabe weather woman. Even did that monologue one time for I was trying to get into an acting troupe because it was the 90s. You just did shit, and I was like, it's just nice knowing that we live in a country where life. Wait. It's just nice knowing that we live in a country where life, liberty, and all the rest of it still stand for something. I did that in the monologue from Addams Family Values. Malibu RB. No. Anyway, Boba Hicks is here.
What's up, Boba?
And yeah, exactly.
Boba Hicks where?
Right. Julia Roberts.
You know, I've never seen Pretty Women or Pretty Woman. I've never seen that.
It's okay. I think it's one of those movies. I haven't rewatched it probably in 20 years. I don't know how it works today. Like, at the time it was iconic. At the time it was like fun. But I don't, some things don't age.
Isn't that movie where he's trying to fix her? Like,
it's a movie. No, in it, Richard Gere. Well, technically, yeah, but not really. So in it, Richard Gere needs a date for the week. So he hires a street hooker played by Julia Roberts, and then, but he's very rich, and he's at a very fancy hotel. So to stay there, Hector Elizondo, who's like the concierge, I think that's how you say it. French and me, not so much. Hooks her up to like make her proper so that she doesn't embarrass him because she's a hooker, and she goes through her day of drive to shop, but none of the women there will let her shop because she's a hooker. But she's got all this money, and then she spends a lot, and then Hector hooks her up and gets her like fancy, beautiful clothes, and then she goes back at the end of the shopping montage, and she's like, "You guys work on commissions, right? Big mistake with all her bags," and then walks off.
That is iconic.
That's the most iconic. That's the only thing I clearly remember, other than eventually they fall in love or something.
Of course.
Yeah. So
yeah, it doesn't sound like my kind of movie.
It was the 90s. We liked weird shit.
I'm a big action movie, sci-fi, comic book movie person.
Yeah, like if you need an action movie with like Julia Roberts, like I don't think she did any action movies, did she?
Yeah, I can't think of a single Julia Roberts movie where she even ran.
Be the Pelican Brief with her and Denzel, but that's more of a like law thriller with political intrigue. But I think some cards blew up in that, if I remember correctly. But yeah, because Sandra Bullock was in Speed. And Speed 2.
I've never seen Speed.
I think you would probably like Speed because it is a very 90s action movie. And it's got Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock.
I love Sandy Bullock in Miss Congeniality.
That was a fun movie. I worked on that one, so that was
kind of like Pretty Women a little bit, but different.
It's a little bit, except differently misogynistic.
Yeah, but still, it's one of those movies we grew up with, and it's like, I love this movie.
Yeah. That's pretty good. I almost killed the second assistant director on that one. So.
What, for real?
Yeah, I was an extra on Miss Congeniality.
Oh, what? Talk about it. I want to hear about it.
So yeah, in the beginning during the Russian restaurant, scene.
Mm-hmm.
You can see taxi cabs driving by outside the window. I was driving one of those taxi cabs,
Oh, nice. I'll have to
and
rewatch it. And
they were raining really horrible, cold, fake rain on us. And the car that they gave me to drive, the thermostat was broken, and it was only blowing out hot air. So picture what's happening in the interior of a car in Austin, Texas, on a 101-degree night,
oof.
where there's a 100-degree heater in it. The windows are stuck, so you can't roll them down. But even if you could, they're about to rain cold rain on you. Windshield wipers didn't work, and you have to drive through the rain machine. So anyway, I almost ran over the second assistant director.
Wow. Well, that's their fault.
Yeah, but I got
Good
to
on
meet
you.
Ernie Hudson, and then later, you can't see me, but in the scene where she's like, what's your idea of the perfect date? And she's like, April 25th. It's not too hot, not too cold. All you have to do is, I was in the audience for that, like the big amphitheater, because they were just like, we need everyone. Shatner is not. Everything you hear about Shatner, at least in the 90s, was not an exaggeration.
He's a piece of work.
He was not friendly between, between filming and stuff. Which,
I mean, he was old then, so I get it. But he's even older now.
When somebody's paid to help you on set, you can at least be nice.
Yeah.
And then I also you can't see me, but in the scene where they're at the club, drinking the tubey things, I'm in the I moved through in a couple different outfits.
So you're talking about all these scenes, and now I'm just picturing you front and center walking by like
I'm
Sandra
not
Bullock.
well,
I know, but it's fun to visualize.
Yeah, right.
You'd be like, "Hi,"
and then there's some. This is not me, but on the wall there's some Dayglow paint body, a naked body that was slammed together. That was my roommate at the time.
Oh wow!
They're like, we need somebody naked to cover themselves in neon paint and slam against this wall for the background. She's like, I'll do it. I'm like, okay.
That is a wild story.
Extra money than the normal day player rate, so good for you, girl.
There you go.
But again, if I had had that body, if my body had been better, I'd probably been like, I'll do it. Let me get in there and slam your body down and wind it all around like the Spice Girls.
I'm gonna have to find Miss Congeniality streaming after this and rewatch it.
Yeah. It was fun to work on. Benjamin Bratt was fun. It was when he was dating Julia Roberts, and he caught me leading a raid on craft services. And he was like, you guys are doing great out here. And I'm like, you're doing great. I had no idea who he was. And I'm like, you're doing great in there. I'm like, do you need anything? A banana, an apple? He's like, no, I'm good. And then he walked off, and this girl was like, oh my God, that was Benjamin Bratt. And I'm like, who? He's one of the stars of the movie. I'm like, he's on one of the Law and Order shows or something.
Was he the male lead?
Huh?
Was he the male lead in the movie?
Yeah, he was the agent she falls in love with. He's short.
Gotcha. Yeah.
He is super short. And I mean, he was nice, but she was like, he's dating Julia Roberts. I'm gonna have my Julia Roberts flashback from the time I met her, and I'm like, oh, lucky I didn't have any.
You got a lot of celebrities, huh?
Well, at the time in Austin, there were a lot of celebrities there, so it's like you just sort of run into them.
That's really cool.
And then for a while I would go hang out in LA, and you run into people. Never Moby because he's still alive, but I have my friend's parents live by Moby. So I did drive by his house one time, and I'm pretty sure it was him. When I'm like, you suck, Moby, right out the window at him. So the way his face fell, I'm pretty sure. And I mean, who else is going to be old, bald, and white and Moby Shark but Moby? So.
I mean, I know he's kind of a piece of work, but explain to me the Moby hate. I know Eminem hates him too, so I know it's valid. I just don't know a lot about Moby.
So Moby released an autobiography, memoir, whatever we're calling it in this day and age. Couple of years, it was during the Me Too, right before or during Me Too, right? Mm-hmm. And in it, he was talking about all the women he's dated, one of whom is Natalie Portman. And then Natalie Portman releases a statement where she's like, wow, that's a really different experience than I had at 17 when really much older, creepy guy was sort of being lecherous around.
Moby sucks.
Yeah. So, and
Oh,
also, Lana Del Rey was like at his apartment one time, and well, his not it's not like his house, his like bougie LA house, and she was like, Moby, you're the man, and he was like, oh, that's cool, and she's like, no, 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 you're the man, like you're the man that keeps everyone down that we need to overthrow,
yeah.
and the fact that I have to now agree with Lana Del Rey on something, and that like she had a good point. Like I can't. This between the Portman attempt at like, yeah, just can't. I cannot.
That's funny.
Literally cannot even. Hello, Bedazzle.
So yeah, Eminem goes off on somebody. I'm like, yeah, they're probably a piece of crap, and that just confirms it because I had no reason as to why he
And
was
this,
dissing
yeah,
Moby.
the Moby thing was way before. I mean, like it would have been happening at that time in real time, but the story didn't come out until much later. And of course, it's Natalie Portman. I recommend googling it because her response far more eloquent. I mean, again, there's a reason, like our queen, literally, queen of
Queen
Natalie.
Amidala.
Yeah, I will not condone a course of action that will lead to having to go on a date with Moby. But yeah, I don't, and that's I mean, I've never cared for him. His music blows. It's always blown.
Is he like techno music, like
Yeah,
or
he's
like
like techno
DJ?
industrial, like it's like rave music if you're not actually at the rave, it's not good. Like if you're at the rave and you've taken substances to make the rave fun, then rave music is fine. But
Otherwise, it's just a headache.
otherwise it's just like boom, boom. It's no.
A lot of bass.
Yeah, it's a different experience. I mean, I have many CDs that I bought at raves, and I don't listen to them because I'm not in the mindset
Yeah, you got to
for
be on
listening to that kind of
illicit
music.
substances for that.
Yeah, I'm too old, and I'm on too many other chemical substances to keep me from falling apart. Like I don't need to dance to electronic when I can just put on some disco or Spice Girls and
There you go.
our little Chapel Roan. I do have to admit, the kids and their Chapel Roan, she kind of slaps.
Yeah, her songs are pretty dang good. I mean, I keep hearing Hot to Go in movie trailers, and I'm not mad about it. I'm like, it's a banger. It's fine.
Oh
Keep
yeah,
using it.
I heard that on TikTok. I'm like, ooh. And that was when I was like, I'm old, but I'm not that old. I'm not so old that new music happens, and I'm not like.
I like a lot of what she says, and it's like she doesn't have a PR person, and I'm sure she'll get there.
Eventually, yeah.
But I don't disagree with most of the things that she says. It's just a lot of people are like, oh.
Well, I mean, like you're younger. Like here's the deal. If I had Twitter and TikTok and YouTube in the 90s when I was in my 20s, I would have been canceled constantly. And I'm not a nice person, but I'm a good person, right? There's a difference.
Yeah.
I try to do good things. I'm not always right. I fail all the time. Like I do a lot of study into like anti-racism and how to be like an ethical person as far as like reparations and as far as queer liberation and things that mean a lot to me for various reasons. Things that personally impact me in ways. I still fuck up all the time. There's my F-bomb.
We all do.
I'm not perfect, but in the 90s I was very not perfect, and in the 90s what is often lost, like I heard, there's a lot of discussion about South Park lately, right? Where people are like, "Oh, the libs didn't like South Park until now," and then before people were like, "Oh, South Park, it's too spicy for the whatever." In the 90s, we all watched South Park.
I've always loved South Park, even if they're making fun of something I like or relate to. If you're watching South Park and expecting not to get made fun of, you are
It's
watching
pretty
South Park
equal
wrong.
opportunity, right? As far as lampooning stuff. Now,
Exactly.
do I think that their takes are always good? No. But at the same time, like, I'm not afraid of humor that, like, I don't like humor that punches down. And what I've noticed about South Park is there are some things where they lampoon it, but they don't actually punch down.
Yeah.
I don't like humor that punches down. And there's a difference, right? You should always punch up. Always punch the rich, like capitalist pig. Like that's who's ruining everyone's life.
Well, they really stuck it to the capitalist pigs with that first episode. They
Yeah,
really did.
regardless of where you fall, there's something to be said about getting a deal for many billions of dollars and then
1.5 billion.
turning right around and going out of your way to tick off the people that are paying you money by creating a lot of mess. So like, again, it's a vibe, and it's, like if I had signed a deal for $1.5 billion and there was no way for them to get the money back, it was a done deal, I would also probably be just talking out of every side of my butt. So
I do not blame them whatsoever.
Nope.
Get that bag and make use of it. What are they going to do? Cancel them? They just gave them so much money.
They can't take the money back, so there you go. They could try to sue them, but good luck. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, somebody was like, they should sue them and get. It's like, it's South Park. What did you think you were getting? Like, nobody
and it's
is
also nothing untrue was said.
Well, you're right. I mean, but again, it's like they punch everyone in the face. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And if you just don't like it, you don't watch it. Like, there's a lot of stuff I don't agree with. I just don't watch it.
Yeah, there's been things I've been enjoying, and I saw an episode, and I'm like, well, that didn't sit right, and then I don't watch it anymore.
No. It's like, if you don't like Star Wars, just don't watch Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Don't talk bad about it. Don't make it your whole life's work to diss it, because obviously you feel something about it. So you're either mad about one thing or you're mad about all of it.
Well, that's sort of where I fall with sort of, like, I don't engage with Star Wars fandom anymore because, to a degree I do, because, I do Star Wars content. So there are people who do show up in the comments and have opinions, and that's fine. Like, so far all of my viewers have been, except for the dude from Germany who had a big deal that I made Swiftwind from She-Ra pink, even though in the toys Swiftwind was pink. But anything in German is far more harsh than it would be in English. But
that is true.
But so to a degree I'm going to engage, but I don't engage. I don't go like any channel. It doesn't matter whether or not it's a channel I like, or if it's I don't do clickbait channels anymore. Like if you do if you have an action figure channel and like you've always got a booby figure in your thumbnail, I'm not going to engage. It doesn't matter if I like you. It doesn't matter if I used to be subscribed to you. It doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going there. And like, those people are always going to get way more clicks than I will. But that's just not what I'm building. There's a lot of new Star Wars I really like. There's a lot of new Star Wars I don't care for. I don't talk about... It's kind of like in The Last Jedi when Rose says, you fight for what you love. You don't fight against what... You don't fight against... Like, I always mangle this saying. But, like, it's true. Like, I would rather sort of fight and create stuff I love than worry about arguing with some dick on the internet because he didn't like the movie.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't like the TV show or, whatever, it's always something. And it makes it hard because, there are times you have to actively not engage in conversation with people you normally like. But at the end of the day, the mental health is more important. It's not even engaging with bad ideas, like with contrary ideas, which is sometimes how it gets framed. Like, oh, what, you have no critical thinking? It's like, no, you have no critical thinking. So engaging with you is pointless because you're not actually going to consider a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
And
the people that are very closed off, they're never going to change their mind unless it personally is like affecting them or it somehow clicks in their mind that what they're watching is just not for them, and that won't happen.
And that's kind of the thing. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't need to change somebody's mind if they didn't like The Acolyte, right? If you don't like it, you don't like it. It just doesn't need to be your life's work to make sure I know I'm not supposed to like it and I can't like it, and if I like it, I'm wrong. Because it's not how taste works. Like, and a lot of the dudes who do this, it's like, sir, you have a wife who likes you. I don't know why she likes you. She shouldn't like
Exactly.
you. You're hideous. I look at you and you make me want to throw up. But she found something good in you. So like, should I argue with your wife? And then you'll be
No.
even more. I mean, that's also assuming some of these people have wives and that anybody would touch them. So, but again, I'm trying to be the better person here and assuming the best for them.
There's this one channel that they've dedicated the last 4 or 5 years of their channel to just bad mouthing modern toys. And when Indiana Jones came out, the new one, they like made it their purpose to make sure that their audience helped make that movie fail. Like
Yeah,
they made a 4.5 hour review of Dial of Destiny, and it was really just an opinion piece on why they think the movie sucks and what's wrong with it. And it's like that's just your opinion, and clearly you think about it way too much.
that's funny. I like Dial of Destiny. I thought it was
I
pretty.
loved it.
I did not care for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I felt like it tried too hard, but I like Dial of. I think the problem with Dial of Destiny, and I think this is some of the sequel trilogy issue, is that, and this week is a really good time, I guess, to have the sort of talk about this. Not necessarily, we're not gonna ever get in depth, but with the death of Ozzy Osbourne this week,
Oof.
it's a reminder that for Gen X and like for the boomers out there who are still engaging in fandoms, they're dying. Like a lot of them are dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their days are numbered. There's a mortality thing happening. They're all going to be dead soon. And when I say soon, that's compared, like 10, 15, 20 years. But their days are numbered, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same with Gen X. Like we're all getting old. It's like we're in our 50s. The youngest Gen Xer is like late 40s, mid to late 40s. The upper side of Gen X is like right under 60. We're all dying. So what did the Last Jedi, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker killed off Luke, Han, and Leia? Which in
Mm-hmm.
the case of Leia, there was no way to not let her go because I feel like if Carrie Fisher had actually not passed when she did, she probably would have still been. Leia would have gone on.
She died before The Last Jedi came out, right?
Yeah, yeah,
See,
she
in
did.
my opinion, what they should have done was when she got blasted into space, they should have killed her off, changed the ending with Luke, and made it that he didn't die.
Well, they didn't even have to change the ending with Luke, and this is why I think because when at the end of the Last Jedi, when Luke finger quote dies, his entire body disappears.
Yeah.
Where's his hand?
His robot hand?
Yeah, his robot hand wouldn't have gone with him.
Yeah, no, you're right. It would have just fallen onto the ground like a robe.
And this is the one thing where like obviously somebody JJ didn't read didn't understand the lore because just recently at the time in Rebels there was an in-between place where Ezra had saved
Ahsoka. I love Rebels.
Ahsoka. Yeah, Rebels was great. It would have been really easy, like, well, how did Luke wasn't finger quote really there, but like they could have easily like Luke because he projected himself got sucked in. Rise of Skywalker has to include saving Luke from the in-between place, whatever, right? Rey has to train harder to save Luke so they can defeat Palpatine, who has returned like it's the 1990s Dark Empire comic.
Yeah.
So like there were ways they could have fixed that because in movie his robot hand should not have become one with the Force.
No, you're right. I never thought about that.
And to me and that was what I thought in the theater. Oh, he's not really dead. His hand is gone. Rian Johnson studied, love him or hate him, he studied enough of the Star. Like he bought that big box set about how the Force works, and built most of what he wrote about the Force from that actual. And I think it was the mid 2000s that whole set came out. So like he understood stuff. So I felt like that was somebody missed that and it's also his fault if he didn't say to somebody, "Hey, by the way, Luke could still be alive because I did this thing. Work with it." Nobody did.
The main problem with handing off the movie to different directors every time was there was no consistency about vision.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. They were just like, do whatever you want, Ryan Johnson. Do whatever you want, J.J. Abrams. And then they were
Yeah.
going to give it to the guy that did Jurassic World, but he made a bad movie. And then they gave it back to J.J. Abrams, who had to kind of go back where he was going from the first movie with all the pretext of The Last Jedi. And that really
Yeah.
just made those last two movies so inconsistent that I don't watch them. I have no
Yeah.
reason to watch them, you know?
Well, that's the thing. I don't rewatch. Well, I don't rewatch Rise of Skywalker. I've seen it seven. I see every Star Wars movie in the theater 7 times, regardless of how good
Oh,
or
wow.
bad it is. I've seen Return of the Jedi 7 times. It's my least favorite Star Wars movie. Feel free to come at me.
Return of the Jedi is?
It's my least favorite. I just, as a kid, I never cared for it. I mean, I bought all the stuff. I loved it, but it was not my favorite Star Wars.
I get you.
Even Phantom Menace, despite its flaws, I enjoy. For me, Return of the Jedi was oddly pessimistic and capitalistic. Like the Ewoks, as cute as they are, 100% designed to make toys.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Lucas had moved completely into his, money is important phase, which get your bag, girl.
For real.
So, and I just, I've read the Anointed scripts, which had detailed the original idea before it sort of became the final version. And originally, like, Leia didn't go to Tatooine to like try to save. She wasn't part of the plot. She was on the moon of Endor with the rebel troops, already setting up. Luke went on the side quest to save Han without her.
Huh.
And like they weren't brother and sister. That was decided very last minute. Obviously, if you watch the other two movies where they were originally sold as like a couple in the 77 to 1981-ish, like Luke and Leia were shipped as a couple by the studio. Like
That's
the
crazy because even in the movies, it's Han and Leia, you know?
yeah, but if you go back and rewatch it, like the first one, it's more Luke and Leia.
Oh, yeah.
But the original tagline for it is a boy, a girl, and a galaxy. Star Wars coming this summer. That was how it was sold, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you reread the original Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which was the first expanded universe book released in like 78, 79, Luke and Leia are presented as like sexual tension couple.
Awkward.
Lucas just chose a very awkward way to resolve two plot threads. The love triangle, because he's not very good at writing romance, which is consistent if you look at his life. And there is another which they dropped at the end of Empire. Originally in Return of the Jedi, toward the end of it, Luke's sister shows up with her Jedi trainer, aka like her Yoda, and meets up with Luke, and then they go together to defeat the Emperor and Vader.
Very different story.
Very different. Overall, very different. Very same, but very different in key ways. And then as it got further, he was like, oh, well, we can't really introduce this person at the very end of the movie that's Luke's sister. And then have her fight. So we have to, he needs a sister. And if you rewatch it, it never says that he has a sister in Empire. It just says, no, there is another.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have been a brother. It could have been many. Han could have been the older brother of, Anakin and Padme's first kid. So anyway, like just Jedi was very much like, and Mark Quinn didn't have what Irving Kershner was able to push back at George Lucas and say, here are some things I think would work better. Let's do this. And that's the whole reason we have the whole I love you, I know, is because Han.
Such a good line.
Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford and Irving Kershner kind of came up with that, and they just tried it out and it worked. That was the three of them. Like so much of Han and Leia's dialogue is not in the script for Empire because Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, and Irving Kershner, like, and it probably helps that Harrison and Carrie Fisher sort of hooked up during the original Star Wars,
Hell
so there was
yeah.
some chemistry there. But so anyway, Jedi just not my favorite. Also, I felt like it was sloppy. I felt like it wrapped up things very sort of like with Rise of Skywalker, where it's very I don't necessarily rate Rise of Skywalker like because it's not a real movie, and I don't mean
No.
that in a mean, shitty way most people mean it. I mean the way it was thrown together so haphazardly to get it out by a due date. It's not a complete thesis.
My biggest gripe with Rise of Skywalker is okay, so Finn, who is it? Finn and Rose and whatever, they go on their mission to get the plans for the ship. And that whole plot leads to nothing because they didn't get it. They didn't get it to the people. All they did was go to a casino planet, ride some horse thingies, and then get on the ship and get captured. That's all they did.
Right? Everyone's got opinions.
Thanks
Good day. Have a good day, Rick. Thanks for popping in.
for popping in.
Yeah, I like my headcanon is what I go with for all the movies. And in my headcanon, Rey is actually Han and Leia's secret daughter that they had whenever Kylo Ren went bad. So,
That's what everyone thought, you know?
and it kind of makes sense the way he reacts to her in The Force Awakens, the way Han Solo reacts to Rey whenever they find her. There's a very like apologetic tone to all of his interactions with her. The fact that he's so willing to go with Finn to Star Killer Base to rescue her. It's Han Solo, right? He only, like, I don't know. I think even in the second one, there's the weird romantic tension, but as Luke and Leia proved, like, you can do that in Star Wars with siblings before they know they're siblings if they were separated at birth.
I would have liked it better if they were siblings. I think it would have, because The Force Awakens was essentially a remake of A New Hope.
Yeah.
Other than having Kylo Ren be the bad guy, but they really could have made it like I don't know how she would have gotten lost, but it would have made sense for her to be like their twin or their kid that was
They
like.
just sent her into hiding to protect her from Snoke, and they'd just lost Kylo Ren to Snoke.
Because it happened about, what, 10, 15 years before the movie? Something like that?
Something like that. And, like Kylo, the way Jedi training should have worked is that Kylo Ren would have been sent to Luke and basically not had much contact outside. So if they had, like if he left and Leia was pregnant or whatever, he may not have known yet that he had a sister or whatever.
Very true.
And then even in Last Jedi, everyone's like, oh, he told her she was no one. I'm like, it's the dark side of the Force. It's going to mess with your head, right? It's like when I was a kid and we went and saw Empire Strikes Back, like, I did not believe Vader was telling the truth. Like, I didn't believe that was Luke's dad. This is another reason, now that I'm sitting here and we're talking about it, that I think I dislike Return of the Jedi, is because without any evidence, Luke just accepts that Vader is his father between the two movies.
Yeah.
His confirmation is when he goes, and Yoda's like, yeah, he's your dad. And then he has a
point of view.
Obi-Wan afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But that's his first actual confirmation that Vader is his father. And there's a year and a half between, canonically, there's a year and a half between the two movies. So for a year and a half, Luke just believed Vader. No proof.
Yeah.
And I did not believe Vader. And I was disappointed that Luke believed it so without any proof. Even as I was a little bit older at that point and had reason at that point to distrust adults. So
we have the luxury now as adults of having the new Marvel comic books that are canon in Star Wars. And like I'm not caught up, I'm behind. But they do have the comic book is set in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. Yeah. So there's a lot more added context to everything.
Yeah, there's I've read the first collections after Empire, so I've read the one where the Vader arc that ends with him running into Sabe of the Handmaiden.
Oh yeah. That's about where I ended. Leia's body double.
Yeah, and Keira Knightley, for those who don't know your Phantom Menace trivia, Keira Knightley and the unhinging jaw. Um, but so yeah, I don't know. Like, and I think the reason though people get so, but I do think this is one of the reasons with Star Wars specifically, fandom is so um possessive of it, is so much of the Star Wars story has been created in the expanded universe over the decades. It has been headcanon that just sort of eventually was adopted. You know, like Coruscant, like was first mentioned by Timothy, first named in Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn, and it wasn't until like it appeared in scripts for the special edition where they added some scenes to Jedi, but like it wasn't official until Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And so a lot of, like a lot of the expanded universe eventually started informing the movies, and I think because of that the fandom is a little bit more, and again, like it's been with that, we all played in the 70s with our action figures and made our own storyline, despite what Lawrence says, like you could only play Star Wars. Most of us did not only play Star Wars, so most of us created our own event. That's why the Cantina aliens were so cool as a kid, because they were hardly on screen, so you could just go make
Make your
whatever
own story
you
for
wanted.
him.
That's why I liked Lobot as a kid. Like Lobot was like Princess Leia's like her like attaché. Like they went on all these. Her and the droids went, and it wasn't R2 and 3PO because Luke stole those. It was the Death Star droid and R5D4 with Leia and Lobot, and then the two Bespin guards. That was like, and the cloud car was Leia's like vehicle. Like like I had my own headcanon, and sometimes I forget that stories I made up weren't real because they've lived with me for so long now. So I think that's a big part of what Star Wars fandom grapples with, is that we all had our headcanon, and for a lot of time that was Star Wars for us. And it gets really hard. The older we get to, the older you get, the harder it is to like have new ideas. And then like that's just how it works when you get older. You have less room in your head and you're less flexible in your thinking.
I mean, I do understand because, Legends, which is now Legends, they had sequels
Yep.
to the original. They had Shadow of the Empire, Heir of the Empire. Then they had Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, which had Anakin and Ben.
Yep.
And, what's their daughter's name? I forget.
Jaina, Jason
Yeah,
and Jaina.
Jaina, so it had their kids. So they had a baseline to make the sequels, but they took bits and pieces of it and made their own thing, which is fine. But when you have something that's like ingrained in people's mind, yeah, they're going to be mad. That was around the 90s when they were doing that stuff. So
Well,
still
the way they
30
handled
years
that.
on.
I mean, to be honest, I never liked Luke, Han, and Leia having kids. I never liked Mara Jade and Luke getting married. I stopped reading Expanded Universe with the New Jedi Order, where they killed off Chewbacca.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
when
I
they
remember
killed
hearing about
Chewbacca,
that.
I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, and they were like, it's because these books need to have more of an impact. And I'm like, no, we don't. I don't read Expanded Universe Star Wars for you to kill people. I read it because it's comforting. It's like I need to pick this book up, and no matter how terrible it is, Han, Luke, Leia, Chewbacca, the droids, they're all gonna live.
Yeah.
Like that's why I read Star Wars. I need that guarantee at bare minimum of like these core characters. The whole reason I like Star Wars, they're still here.
I really thought that they were going to, no, spoilers, sorry, but this movie's been out, that they were going to kill off Chewbacca in The Last Jedi just to
Right.
like reflect that. But then like 2 minutes later they revealed that Chewbacca was alive. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
you could have done something.
Yeah, if
But
they
you
had
didn't.
killed Chewbacca completely, I think would have been too much. It was
Yeah.
bad enough that they had no choice but to let Leia go. Because they couldn't, they're like, we can't recast, we can't. And I think that's one of the few cases, like they did some digital stuff with
Ugh,
Billy.
I hated that.
I didn't mind it. Billy's face looks enough like her. Like I hated the Rogue One
Yeah, that's the one
digital
I'm
face.
referring to. That was
The Rogue
awful.
One is terrible. The one in Rise of Skywalker where it's the flashback to Jedi, like it looks good,
Yeah, they
but it
did go with that one.
but they also use Billy Lord to do that, and like her face is the only thing different about Billy Lord's face than Carrie's is she has her dad's nose. So the actual structure of Billy Lord's face, her eyes, like if she like covers her nose, the bottom half of her face, she's got Carrie's eyes. So like it was really easy for them to like that digital thing worked because her face is actually close enough to Carrie Fisher's that it wasn't that actress that they got for Rogue One looked nothing, and that's part of why that looks like a big, weird, rubbery thing because her face was too different.
Probably a hot take, but I hate Rogue One. I hate
I
that movie.
I like Rogue One. I don't. I like Andor. I like Rogue One. I don't rewatch Rogue One a lot because I again this sort of goes back to sort of how I like to consume Star Wars. I don't necessarily enjoy real world to that degree in Star Wars. I like when Star Wars works as an analog for what's going on in the real world. It's like the first movie, especially like in the 70s, it's very much an analog for where we were as a culture and as a society in the US. It's easier for me to see that now, at this age than it was when I was 3, right?
It's an analog for the Vietnam
3 is
War.
like
Yeah,
really cool. But now I can look back at Star Wars and see how it reflected our culture back then, right? Our society, where we were. And I think from Rogue One, it hit like 2016, right? Right after an election. It was very divisive for a lot of reasons. And it felt very real world. And the same with Andor. Andor feels very real world.
Yeah, I
And
can't.
again, I'm pretty woke. Like, so if anyone's expecting me to go, well, I don't need woke in Star Wars, you're wrong person. I don't want
I'm woke the whole time.
I don't mind woke. I don't mind if we have an entire Star Wars that's nothing but black lesbians, black lesbian transgender, like immigrants from like wherever. Like I will watch that. I will probably enjoy it. I might not rewatch it because I might not enjoy it that much, but I'm gonna watch it. Like that's my jam.
It's Star Wars.
It's Star Wars, right? It's a galaxy far, far away. I'm gonna watch every Star Wars at least once. Book of Boba Fett.
Oh God.
That's my least favorite Star Wars. That's my least favorite Star Wars. I wanted to like it. But what I didn't like about it was not what other like. I liked the Street Bike Kids. I thought that was so cool. That felt like something George Lucas would have put in a movie, like because he's all about cars and racing and like.
They made Boba Fett a joke in his own show. That's why I like.
Well, that's the problem. Boba Fett only works if he's mysterious and you make up your own continuity about him, and that's like again because for kids, especially in the 70s, we had no background. When we got Boba Fett as an action figure, Empire Strikes Back was not out yet. He had like a brief cartoon appearance in the holiday special, which is the best thing about the holiday special.
Riding a dinosaur.
Yeah, and I say this as somebody who watches the holiday special every year, well, twice a year, Thanksgiving and Christmas, because we celebrate all the holidays in this house, even Kwanzaa. I don't celebrate Kwanzaa because culturally I cannot, but I recognize Kwanzaa. Let me rephrase that. Don't cancel me for that. If you're going to cancel me, it needs to be for something good. But Boba Fett existed as fan fiction for all of us as kids. So, like, when they go and try to give him an actual pass, it's never going to live up to it. There are people who, when Book of Boba Fett came out, they're like, but there were those great books in the 90s, like the Bounty Hunter trilogy. That series I hated because Boba Fett is dead at the bottom of the Starlight Pit. Like, I don't feel like Boba Fett should have come back. And I think
Yeah.
Boba Fett should always live mysterious. There was so many years where Boba Fett was active. You can always tell stories set before Return of the Jedi. And Boba Fett should be mysterious. He should be choose your own adventure. Every time they try to make him like a real full-blooded character, for me it ruins it because he's not supposed to be a real character.
It's supposed to be like Master Chief.
Yeah, he like shows up and he's kick ass and like he does stuff and then he screams like a girl as he flies into the Starlight Pit.
Yeah, that was so funny as a kid. It's like all this build up for Boba Fett, and then he gets accidentally knocked into the Sarlacc pit. It was kind of funny.
Sorry, bro. But like, so for me, like anything, like my least favorite part of the Attack of the Clones was Boba Fett. Like, I had no problem with Jango Fett. I had no problem if they had said, "Oh, this is Jango Fett. He's the whole, like the main clone." He requested to have one that was not given the growth stuff, and we don't know where the kid is now. Like, so that there's this implied possibility that Boba Fett could be the son of Jango, but we don't need to actually know. Boba Fett should always have been mysterious and mostly made up in our heads. It's the only way the character works, in my humble opinion.
I did like seeing him in Clone Wars. That was cool, but that was also kind of the same. He doesn't talk much, and
Yeah, like young Boba Fett training, who just shows up technically without baggage. Like, that's different. Like, I'm okay with that. So I think we've lost, and I see this a lot. It's weird because we have all this spoiler like culture, right? Where it's like, oh my god, you ruined the end of the movie. I haven't seen it yet. It's like, sorry, this movie came out 7 years ago. Go away. You haven't seen it yet. You never will. And if you are going to watch it now, oh wow. Stop being precious about spoilers, people. If this is the worst thing in your life, you're doing well. I think the real thing is you have bigger problems and you're trying to pretend having a movie spoiled is a big issue.
Yeah, it's really not. I sometimes, if I'm really excited for a movie, I will go read the spoilers and I'll still be able to watch the movie because it doesn't cover everything. It doesn't show you everything. It doesn't give you the same emotions. You're just reading.
It's not visual, right? Like, I bought the Phantom Menace novelization a month before that movie came out. I knew the movie backwards and forward when I went and saw it, and you know what? It still was enjoyable.
Yeah. It's all about how you want to watch it.
Not the best Star Wars, but I still enjoy it. I love the Phantom Menace. We had to
Empire is my favorite, but I do like Phantom Menace.
My favorite is still A New Hope, aka Star Wars. Because that's just for me where the wonder started. I still watch it and I can still remember being like a little tiny baby in the audience looking up at the screen and I can still feel the wonder. And this is why I go see every movie at least 7 times. Because, well, Rogue One and Solo, the Star Wars story, kind of ruined this. But when that music kicks in and it comes rushing at your face, I just had a clueless moment. Anyway, but when you hear that opening music in Star Wars and like the logo comes rushing at you, I get a rush every time. The opening crawl,
I'm sure it brings you back, I
want to cry every time because it just takes me to that place. So, Star Wars is an emotional thing. And it's like the movies can be, I don't care how terrible they are, I still love Star Wars. It's just,
absolutely.
Like, I don't know, people need to lighten up.
As a franchise, I love Star Wars. My biggest problem with Rogue One, so you know how Darth Vader moves and fights a certain way throughout the entire original trilogy, right? And then he does that hallway scene. Does it look cool? Yes. But that is literally the only time you see Darth Vader move like that. From that point on, for the 3 movies that are like 5 minutes after, he does not move like that anymore. Right. So it was pure fan service, and it just took me out of the movie. And the other thing about it was, I know everyone's going to die. I know everyone in this movie is not going to survive. So why am I invested in this?
I didn't mind that side of it. Like, I kind of, because you kind of, as it's going, you kind of keep thinking, well, Jen Erso will get away, right? She'll go, and she'll pop up later, because this is at the point where Disney was making it clear that they were going to do shows. They were going to do. So I thought at the very minimum, like, she would is, you know, like Jen and Andor would get away at the last minute. And then when it became clear that they would not, like it also was, I went and saw it the weekend Carrie Fisher was in, like the second or third time I went to see it was the weekend Carrie Fisher was like on life support. We didn't know if she was going to live. So it also hit a lot harder that weekend than it did even the first weekend. But I did leave bawling, right?
Yeah.
Because of the real world. And, you know, it's a pretty touching scene at the end whenever like Andor and Jen, who are very not, at least in the movie so far, had not been very kind or tender, or, you know, they just have this sweet moment on the beach is like, you're done.
It was very visually compelling. I will say
Yeah.
that. The whole
And
movie looked good, but I had no attachment.
yeah, and I kind of did. I kind of, you know, thought Jen Erso is plucky and she's a very Star Wars brunette heroine. You know, like I appreciate that Star Wars for a long time gave us brunettes. Would have preferred a ginger because I'm ginger, but at the same time, you know, like brunette is closer as my hair darkens as I get older.
Yeah, there
It
haven't really been any females in Star Wars with blonde hair that are the lead or anything that I can
aren't,
think of,
yeah.
other than the bad lady from Andor.
Yeah, never trust a blonde in Star Wars.
Nope.
Well, Satine had like blondish hair, so.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But you know, Star Wars is
Oh, Satine. I cry every time I think
that was
about
a
that.
really great art. Again, that's a beautiful. A lot of the prequels were saved by the Clone Wars after season 2, halfway through.
Yeah.
That I did not enjoy my 7 viewings of the Clone Wars movie at the.
Yeah,
That
the
was
earlier
really,
seasons are a little rough, just like Rebels. The first season's a little kiddie, but
yeah,
Rebels season 2 onward hits hard. Like it's
yeah.
great.
So you know, like, but again, it's if you don't like Rogue One, that's valid. Like, I don't care for the real worlds that we're getting in Star Wars. I know some people love it, but I feel like, and again, like I liked Andor a lot. Andor hit really hard. I appreciated that so much. But at the same time, I watch Star Wars so that I can escape the real world.
Yeah, I don't need SA in Star Wars for my
Yeah,
escapism, you
but
know?
I'm also not going to be that dude who makes that video who like loses his shit over it, because there are a
No,
lot of people who now like Star Wars is different for them in a good way. So like again, everyone gets to have their own Star Wars. Like,
absolutely.
so, you
And
know,
that's the thing about fandoms. All of this can exist without people hating each other for liking it. And people seem to forget that. Well, it's not people, it's just a certain group of people. But
yeah, there's just a certain loud vocal part of fandom where it's like you have to hate this. It's like junior high again. Like, we can't be friends if you're friends with Becky, and it's like, well, nobody's really friends with Becky. Like, we just tolerate her. But now I'm going to be more of her friend since I'm not supposed to be her friend, or you won't
exactly.
talk to me. Now Becky has real friends now out of spite.
That's funny. And that's true. Like sometimes people will tell you that you shouldn't like something. You're just like, well, I'm just going to find more reasons to like it.
Well, it's like the whole argument for woke. It's like you shouldn't like it because it's woke. It's like, but what if you like woke things? What if
Or
to you it's not a problem? Like,
or what if you just misinterpreted all this stuff as not being woke until you were in a time where it was comparative to that, you know?
right. Well, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, some of what they call woke now is not going to look woke at all in 10, 15 years when it's like, you know, like there's some stuff that, you know, growing up where you're like, wow, this is really, they're including this, you know, like, especially with sort of the after school special, very special episode time in television where it's like there was a lot of like, this is here to teach you that it's, you know, like it's drugs are bad or whatever. But at the same time, you have to learn that stuff somehow.
Yeah.
And, you know, like some of it may come across as very heavy-handed and very clunky in 10 to 15 years. But that's how you have to start to shift so that, you know, like,
You can't get to the good stuff without people throwing it in just for inclusion or whatever.
You can't just start with like, compelling stories with Black lesbian Jedis, right? You have to sort of be a little woke about it in the beginning so people get used to the idea. Then you get to the good stuff.
Yep. And the problem, so Acolyte, people called that show woke, and I didn't see anything like that at all in that show. Like, it's like, well, what's woke? That the 2 female leads are Black? Is that what the problem is?
Black
Or the 1
lesbians.
female lead?
That's what I kept hearing. Black lesbian Jedis. And that to me seemed to be the genesis of their entire, like, it's woke, was that Black lesbian Jedis. And it wasn't even necessarily clear to me that they were lesbians, so I don't know.
And the main thing that I took away from the Acolyte was, spoilers, sorry if you haven't watched it, but it's canceled already. Plagueis showed up at the end of the show, and I'm like, cool, season 2, we're really going to get into this lore of the Sith, and we're going to see Plagueis. Nope, canceled because of toxic fans.
That and that whole scene with Trinity from The Matrix. I'm sorry, I can't remember your character's name, Trinity, but you'll always be Trinity to me. But like that scene, like they showed that before. I think, was it the Phantom Menace when they did the re-release? Was it Phantom Menace? I went and saw it. Maybe it was something else I went and watched that had the opening scene of that in it.
Yeah.
But that just kicked out. Like, I watched that on a big screen and it just looked so good. And it's like, it's Trinity kicking ass and Star Wars. Like, how can you not like take the pieces of this that are really fun and just enjoy it?
Yeah, and that's the problem. People can't just watch a whole picture, and they have to pick out little parts of it that upset them or pop out to them. And it's like, well, first of all, Star Wars has aliens and stuff. I don't see y'all complaining about these aliens looking different from the humans on screen. Right. So maybe you should start there and work your way backwards to just, oh, people are different too.
Right. But, well, it's like, and to that point, like Star Wars A New Hope, my favorite. Like, that's my go-to. Like, if I need Star Wars and I need it to feel like that, like the warm, gushy, like sentimental nostalgia that only Star Wars can bring, that's what I put in. But I'm going to tell you, from the point that the droids land on Tatooine until Mos Eisley, that is some tedious ass shit.
Oh, it is. I was going to go to Tashi Power Station to pick up some power converters.
Luke's got too much of his father in him, and he'll never be a farmer.
So whiny.
So it's just so boring. It's so dull. It's so like, son, people are easily frightened. Well, let's jump out from behind rocks and go booga booga then and see how quickly they run. It's so tedious, right? Like that whole, for me, that's just, even when I went and saw the special edition 7 times, every time, like once the droids are captured by the Jawas, I'm like, ugh, Luke. And we get to Mos Eisley, and it's like Han's there, and Greedo shot first. Can't even. It looks bad. I don't have a philosophical issue with Lucas saying I would rather Greedo shoot first because I want Han to be coded more heroic than originally. Like, I have no problem with that. To me, that's valid. It's just that it looked bad.
Yeah.
Like, it looked bad. It was like no actual attempt was made to make that look good.
Lazy CG. Just pop it on there. Make it work.
It's like, let's just freeze the frame for like 5 or 6 seconds to do this. And like, there you go. And the Jabba scene, like, I've got no problems with it. And like, I have no problem that every couple of years they go back and they redo Jabba with the latest tech. I quite frankly think if they were to go in and redo Phantom Menace with some CGI, and redo Jar Jar and redo a bunch of the bad CGI, I'm not bad, dated CGI, and the Phantom Menace, that movie would, and then edit out a bunch of the pod racing, so much better.
You don't like the pod racing?
It just went too long. It felt like
That's
it was. And then the director's cut version on the DVD, it was like 5 minutes longer. It's like, oh my god.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was too much.
That's the thing about Star Wars, is a lot of the sequences are really long, so that some of the parts in between seem really slow and tedious. Like the opening scene of A New Hope, that thing goes hard and it's like fast and heavy. And then you slow down. It's intentional though. when you go to
Well,
Tatooine.
it's also really important though that movies were different when Star Wars came out. Like that entire opening sequence, like you needed the breather because it went so hard, especially
You've
in.
never seen anything like that.
I think it was Lawrence who was like his son had asked. I think it was his son had asked like, oh, whenever Darth Vader first showed up, like and it's like if somebody was there in the theater, like I remember some little bitch. I mean, she was probably as old as I, or maybe a little bit older, but she started crying
Oh no.
because he was so scary.
Yeah.
And she also started crying during the cantina because of the monsters. Just like, get this kid. Again, she was probably older than I was.
Wow.
I was a
That's
tough.
scary.
I was a tough kid. Right?
See, for me, I
Um,
like that kind of stuff. I liked being scared. The
I was
Incredible
just
Hulk, the reruns of that show with Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bill Bixby. Is that who it
yeah,
was? Bill Bixby.
yeah.
Um, I would get terrified when the Hulk would be on screen and I'd hide, but I'd still be watching it because I like to be scared.
My mom would get mad that his pants never ripped off. You guys ever wonder why I'm like I am? My parents, very much.
Oh wait, for certain reasons, not because that's not accurate, but just because.
Just because she was really like, why is his pants not ripping off? Like, that's not fair. She's
Oh,
like, if
okay.
it was a woman, his pants would have ripped off.
To be fair though, does anyone want to see what the Hulk's junk looks like? I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Well, we all have our opinions.
We all have our opinions. Yeah, that would have been. This would have been really easy to do, CJ. It would have been really easy to like go in and film like a Greedo man taking a gun out, and then having him get shot. Like
Han shot first.
yeah, it just even because it was do or die. Like I personally never felt like it was cold blooded. I felt like Han was just like it's you or me, and he was the faster draw. Like it's a very Western thing. Like, but I don't know that plays in 1997. Like I think Lucas was in some ways trying to update those films to be more modern, and I don't know. I don't know. Like that's a different
Anti-heroes are way
conversation.
more modern, like having Han shoot first is the most modern thing you could have done.
Yeah, but he just Lucas and Spielberg both got squeamish as they got old, which I don't. I also went through sort of a squeamish phase in my like 40s, where I was just like I didn't know guys, and then I just got over it. But it's also worth noting that both he and Spielberg, when they were making, like Spielberg went and CGI removed all the guns in ET whenever the feds are chasing the alien and the kids, because he didn't like the logistics of it. It's worth noting that when Lucas and Spielberg were making these changes, they both had small kids.
Context
So
is
how much
everything.
is like this is them like, what am I? I've got kids. I don't want my little kids to see Han Solo shoot first and think he's a bad person. That's an awkward conversation to have with my kid. Like I think some of it is that. Like
Yeah.
both him and
Did they
Spielberg.
leave that in ET? Is it still that way?
I think the last special edition they went back and fixed it because Spielberg has since admitted that it was a problem. And I'm gonna say even like again I skew or woke or whatever, but I always thought that was a stupid decision
Yeah,
because
South Park made an episode about it.
obviously the government's gonna pull guns on kids. Come on,
Yeah,
it's the
of course they
government.
are.
They're
Every
chasing the
time.
alien.
Every
They don't know
time.
if the kids have been infected. They don't know if you know.
They're under mind control or something. They
Yeah,
just don't.
right. Like even if you put aside a political read on the situation, just in general, you don't know what you're dealing with. It makes sense. Like, but it also was a lot closer to the stuff that happened in Waco, and a lot closer to. I think it was before Columbine, though. But it was just closer, right? It was There was a lot of conversations happening in the '90s that people sometimes forget about. That really informs sort of decisions like that. So it's easy, even for me, with my long memory of things, to sometimes forget that, like, like the Columbine thing, like, I'm so used to that sort of thing being in the news that I've sometimes like Scream 3 was completely changed because of that thing, because of
Yeah, they
Columbine.
had to reshoot the entire
They
movie
completely
essentially.
redid the entire script and changed the story, and it's made Scream different in the years after. And it's partly because the Weinsteins, old Necro Nuts himself, um, we're far enough in the stream, I can say Necro Nuts, was not willing to sort of delay the movie. But again, it makes sense. Like, you don't have Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, and David Arquette were all sort of blowing up at the time. And if they had waited too many years, it would have cost a lot more. But like, it makes sense in the moment to be a little bit more cautious. In retrospect, you're just like, I don't know. But at the time, like, it was a bit, I mean, like, when that story broke, the Columbine thing, I was still working at Blockbuster, and I remember us turning off the trailers, because would have to run trailers in the store to advertise movies.
Yeah.
And we just turned it off and put the news on, and people would come in and come out and sort of watch the updates as they happened. And it was like the day before my birthday. Happy birthday to me.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so it was a big deal. Like, there was, like, and the same with sort of like the OJ trial, like, everything sort of stopped the day that verdict. Well, it's, like, whenever the we didn't put that on the TVs at Blockbuster. But like the OJ
No car chase?
Yeah, we didn't watch the car chase on the Blockbuster. I was at home when that happened. We at the time had satellite, so even though I was in the South, my news was out of Los Angeles. And it's like 2 or 3 hours behind. Central time is 2 hours behind, so I would get home at like 8 o'clock our time, just in time for like the 6 and 7 o'clock news in California. So every night I would get home and turn on satellite TV and watch car chases in LA.
Oh, wow.
They were on the news
They were always, well, that's because people watched it. It was like the first time people were like, oh, let's watch the news. It was a car chase.
Great one where it was like the guy crashed into the like divider in the highway, jumped out of the car, jumped over the divider, kicked somebody out. Somebody stopped so he wouldn't hit him, kicked him out of the car, stole that car. So then it was like they were having to go the other. It was amazing. Hopefully, no. I don't think anyone was hurt in that one, but like,
other than the guy who got kicked.
Yeah, other than the guy kicked out of his car, but yeah. So like, we forget some of that stuff, though, some of the context, and it's really easy to be like, oh, what a dumb decision. But at the time, just being sensitive to the culture.
Yeah.
And a lot
about the kids.
And there's a lot of, like, it's really easy now to sort of go back and look at, well, you can't really look at Twitter anymore, but it's easy to sort of, like, there's a better documentation of big events like that now. A lot of the 90s and the mid 2000s are sort of like, just try to go Google like stuff from that era, and a lot of it is lost to time.
Lost media.
Yeah, I do. I do pay research for Toy Geeks podcast, and all the like all the mid 2000s websites that people had like for toy lines and stuff, like, it's all gone. I'll find a blog that will refer to some stuff, and it's all dead links that not even the internet Wayback Machine can find. So
was Angel Fire? Was that one of those like homebrew website things?
Angel Fire, I had a couple GeoCities sites. GeoCities, Angel Fire. There are a couple of them, but they're all gone now, and like all the sites pretty much gone. Wayback Machine has a bunch of stuff, but also some of that stuff would have had to have been denoted as like significant enough for them to capture it. And so
they didn't include toy websites.
Sadly, they did not. There were I was doing the Ghostbusters research, I found a few Ghostbusters sites that had been preserved. And I found one news site during Power of the Force 2 that was on the Wayback Machine. But luckily with Power of the Force 2, a lot of that was documented by rebelscum.com, and Rebel Scum is still with us. So with Star Wars, it's easier a little bit because Star Wars has always been such a cultural point that there are a lot of the major Star Wars toy sites are, like, it's not Toys R Us, Toys R Gus anymore. It's the Star Wars Collectors Archive Community or some such. But it's basically like I was looking at that website in 1998, 99, and I'm looking at it in 2025.
I would say that Star Wars is culturally significant, so it makes sense.
It is, for sure. We're at 2 hours. Where are you at?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
2 hours.
I usually do about 2 hours.
So, well, I finished one.
Excellent. So. Let's hold it up for the people to see. I'm going to make you, I'm going to embiggen you. There we go.
There we go.
Very nice. That looks great.
I tried to do shading and stuff. I have not colored anything in, like, I want to say maybe like 15 years. So.
Well, I'll have you back soonish so that we can help you evolve your talent again. And then,
yeah, I'm proud of it.
Oh, your nails are great.
Thank you.
What color?
One is shorter than the other because obviously I'm right-handed, so I keep breaking these, and my left hand is all long and pretty. But thank you.
Even when I do acrylics, this hand always has shorter.
It gets difficult.
It does. I don't even bother with the middle anymore because it always snaps off even when it's real, it's split. So I just. And this whole finger is gnarly now because of all the when you color 8 to 10 hours a day. It happens.
Thank you, Leia.
Yeah, thank you all for hanging out. I know we did not pay a lot of attention to chat. That tends to happen, especially when I like somebody. And it's fun.
We were just talking. I can't believe it's been 2 hours.
Yeah, and it looks like I just lost my camera, so I'm gonna hold my page up right here.
Much better than mine.
Awesome. Again, I color 8 to 10 hours most days. So. And you can watch it all on my YouTube channel. So there we go. So,
really nice work.
So I'm gonna do that because there we go. And we're gone. All right. Riley, where can the people find you?
Well, my username at Rowdy Riles, that is my YouTube handle. I'll type my Instagram, although I do shitpost a lot of my stories, so be prepared for that. That's my Instagram in the chat, so if you want to follow me there. I have way less followers on Instagram. I have like 450 in it. I'm about to hit 3,600 on YouTube, so coming on up. But yeah, I have a video every Tuesday. I try to live stream every Thursday and Saturday. Sometimes I have a guest, sometimes it's just me, but people seem to like that, obviously. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
You are one of my favorite new ToyTube channel, new to me, because obviously you've been doing it a little bit longer. Also, a handful of people here who don't know Rowdy. There's a link to Rowdy's YouTube. Please go subscribe.
Thank you.
Let's see, you're really close to 3,600 subscribers, so let's get you there. If you're not
4K, I'm doing a giveaway.
Exactly. So once we get to 4K, a giveaway. And I have like 3 different accounts, so I'm not sure which ones I watch you on. I know I comment between the 2. So I also yesterday, great job with Punk, but I was also filming. So it's like I said hi, and then it was just like, there were a couple of things he said where I'm like, that's not right, but I don't have time to pause and correct the situation over there. I don't even remember what it was. I think it was some crowdfund thing.
Yeah, maybe.
He was talking about one of the crowdfunds. I'm like, that's not how the story went, but whatever.
Was it the Star Wars one or the McFarlane one?
I think it was the Star Wars one.
Yeah. Well, you have to yell at him.
I don't care that much. I just tell him to watch out for Gargamel in his chat tomorrow. So
There you go.
you know, that's what we do. That's what I do. I sass Lawrence, and you know, now you know it's true that I can't out talk him. So
Absolutely. This was a lot of fun, Allison. I'm glad I came on.
I'm glad we were finally able to make it. Like, instantly, I was like, this person has to come on my channel, and that does not happen often. It's usually like, but I've become more selective, and I'm only now having people I actually want to hang out with, which means you will come back. Unlike Lawrence, I'm not afraid of having repeat people back because I would rather spend time with cool people. All right, really quick. Tomorrow, yeah, you're amazing. Tomorrow I've got at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time a pencil test video coming out, and I color a Lady Shiva from DC Comics in it. And I hated the pencils I colored with, so come watch it so you can see me pretend to be not a bitch about these sucked. I've got GoBot, some Goonie shorts this week. Next Saturday is G.I. Joe Real American Hero toy booklet video from 1988 on Saturday. And then next Sunday, I will be here solo, coloring whatever everyone voted for. I put up 4 options on my page for people to go vote for if they wanted to see me color it. I'm going to go see what it is. So, hello, Travis. Mine are Prismacolors. So,
I just have these.
and those are good. I almost scrapped mine, but because I'm moving into the studio, I couldn't find my Crayola. So next time I will color with the same ones.
Hey, they work.
No, they were pretty good. So on that note, we are going to head out. Thank you everyone for hanging out.
Thanks, chat.
And we're going to end with my favorite clip from the 1980s. From the 1984 miniseries Lace starring Phoebe Cates. Anyway, thanks everyone. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
I haven't made up my mind yet. Incidentally, which one of you bitches is my mother?